I want to briefly talk about generative AI images, what they are, where they came from, and how they impact you. Generative AI, or Gen AI, refers to computer systems that create new content, like images, by learning patterns from huge collections of existing data. For images, this means text-to-image models that take a written prompt and generate an image. These systems don't see or understand the way we do. They predict which pixels go together based off of their huge amounts of training data. Some major milestones in public generative image tools were DALL-E 1, that never had a public release, but was utilized in a closed research-based setting in 2021. DALL-E 2 was publicly released in 2022, just a short year later, followed up by DALL-E 3 that was released in 2023. With each of these releases came a huge jump in image quality and reality. These tools made generative AI widely available for the first time. Photography itself is a historical disruptive parallel. Photographing reality wasn't always possible. Up until the advent of photography, if you wanted to replicate something from reality, you had to turn to a painter or an illustrator, and those who could recreate reality with the best fidelity were the most sought after. Then suddenly in 1839, the daguerreotype is developed, and the ability to capture an image in perfect mimetic reproduction totally upended the entire painting industry and field and just general pursuit. What had taken years and lifetimes of generating skills and practice suddenly distilled down into the press of a button. When photography first appeared, critics decried the death of painting. Painting is over. But in actuality, kind of the opposite happened. Once we had the ability to perfectly capture and reproduce reality, through the press of a button, that freed up painting to just become all sorts of brand new things never before even imagined, even thought of. Photography was first developed in 1839. In the 1860s, just 20 years later, as cameras became more popular and more accessible, we see the explosion of impressionism in painting. Fauvism just a few years after that. And around that same time, we get cubism and surrealism, right? Entirely new worlds of creativity and imagination opened up because photography took over the role of reproducing as exactly as possible reality. In photography's case, this technological and cultural shift didn't end art, it just changed what art could be. The emergence of generative AI images definitely has brought with it several huge questions. Are these images art? Is generating an image from a prompt similar to photography? Is generating an image similar to collage? Is generating an image from a text-based prompt that utilizes a data training set that consists of images that other people have already made? Is that even legal? These models are trained on millions of human-made images scraped from the internet, almost never with the consent of the photographer. Is this just a giant plagiarism machine? One thing's for sure, generative AI will be massively disruptive. Not just the image generating kind, but like ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, any of those things, any kind of generative AI is bringing a large disruption to society for good and for bad. AI images are already being non-commercially and commercially used, as well as AI video, and that's sending shockwaves through the arts and communication industries. Photo shoots that used to employ dozens of people, or filmmaking shoots that used to employ hundreds of people to thousands of people, all those jobs are disappearing. Yet at the same time, it's incredibly democratizing. If you have access to a computer and the internet, you can generate any kind of image you want. And of course, because you can generate any kind of images you want, there's already a huge proliferation of misleading images, misleading visuals, fake images, realistic looking images of things that did not happen, that have no basis in truth. These things are proliferating online, massively misinforming the public. Now, whether or not generative AI images are art or are even similar to photographs, that might still be up for debate. However, generating images with generative AI has shown itself to be a completely viable way of making images. That way of making an image, that way of making visual information is here to stay. It's widely proliferating in non-commercial and commercial spaces, and it's something that we have to contend with. Because of the ethical and environmental issues around using generative AI and using generative AI to make images, this class isn't going to specifically be focused on using generative AI to make images. However, if you want to use generative AI to make images for this class, that's up to you. I'll be critiquing all images based on their technical and visual qualities, regardless of how they were made. I won't be excusing poor quality images because of an inherent limitation in the platform that made that image. But what I really want you to think about, as somebody in the world today, does it matter to you if an image is real? Are there specific cases when it does matter to you? How about advertising? Is it important that the subjects that are interacting with the advertised product are real people? How about fashion? Is it important to you that a human being is being shown? How about the news? Is it important to you that the images and footage that's being shown to you by news media outlets, is it important to you that that footage is real? Those images are real? How about content creators or channels that you might follow online? Is it important to you that they're real? How about your teachers? Is it important to you that your teacher is a human? I find it actually kind of exciting, the possibility of a teacher who knows everything and never has to take time off and can instantly get back to you. I mean, I understand how I could lose my job here, but I think that's kind of a fantastic thing to have. And lastly, what strategies are you putting in place for yourself when consuming media, when looking at footage, when looking at images being presented to you? What strategies are you putting in place to help you decide if it is real or not? Is it just where the image came from? If you see an image on the news, then you think to yourself, yeah, that's got to be real. This is a very wild time for humanity. And on a very, very specifically you personal level, understanding how you decide if something is real or true is extremely important. And I hope you develop a rigorous, discerning criticality with all media that's being presented to you.